Hello, everybody. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. Listen, news has just broke.
I know.
Julian Lopetegui is the guy. I'm happy. He's happy. We're all happy. But Charlie, how are you doing before we get started on this video?
I'm happy. I'm happy. I mean, I've got a bit of a cold, so at
Mhm.
some point during this, I might start sneezing like an absolute lunatic. But outside of that, I'm good. I'm good. Nice fresh start for West Ham. We heard rumours it was going to be today, but didn't realise it was going to be like right now when we
Yeah.
when we planned several days ago. Yeah, 11 a.m. is good. Let's do 11 a.m. Didn't think that was going
Well,
to happen, but yeah.
well, the smile on this face says it all because I said it for 5 months, baby, and
Oh
everyone
yeah,
thought,
you're in the money, ain't you?
"Show me the money,
Oh,
money." Well, just don't tell my missus. Right. Anyway, what's new with you, Charlie? Anything interesting before we get cracking?
no, I'm happy the season's done. Happy it's over,
Yeah.
and we can look forward to the future. Like this part of the season is always my favorite part of the season because it's that moment where you can only be positive. There
Yeah.
is no like because we haven't got far enough into the transfer window for us to be disappointed by the lack of transfers or a big name we've missed out on or anything like that. We're looking towards next season. We're going, oh, we could do well next season. We could do this. We could do that. And now we've got the added benefit of new manager, new recruitment team, like the whole thing. I like this period. It's kind of this beautiful moment where we can all just like be sort of like looking forward together, and I like that. That's kind of where I want to live, because
Yeah.
in a week's time, in 2 weeks' time, when we're linked with some big name striker for £50 million and then it doesn't work out and he ends up joining Chelsea or whatever, and we're all going to be fuming again, it's going to get bad again. But for now, it's a beautiful time to be alive.
It is a beautiful time to be alive indeed. Right, let's get into this, Charlie. Premier League 2023-24. Hammers Chats, very own Charlie Walsh. Take it away. What did you think?
It was a long and grueling season, and I think for a lot of it, I mean, me and you would speak, and we'd both be like, "Man, we can't wait for this to sort of just be done and dusted." Um, like it could have been better, could have been worse. Ultimately, we finish sort of where we probably should have finished. It's a strong enough finish, despite the fact that the end of our season's been pretty wonky. And I can't get too mad about it. Like it was one of those
Mm.
seasons where really, if January had been a bit different, maybe we would have been able to get that little leg up on certain people. But
Yeah,
what did we finish in the end off Man U? Is it 8 points or
ninth.
something?
Yeah, 8 points.
So it would have been difficult anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. It's where we probably should be. It's not that bad of a finish, and the beginning of the season helped us a lot, I guess.
Hmm. Where do you think it went wrong for you, mate? Because obviously the
I
start of
mean,
the season, you was
January
good.
probably. It
Yeah.
was obviously we had injuries, we had people missing, and that's never good when you don't have a big squad. And then when you have the ability in January to sort of fix that and to
Mm.
rectify that, and you don't do it, there's no real excuses. I mean, some of the stuff that went down there with the whole agent kerfuffle with Osman, for example, and stuff like that.
Jota and all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stuff that doesn't necessarily need to happen. I think that's really the turning point moment for me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the January window killed us to a point. Yeah, and it showed. I don't know why, but was Moyes really told that he wasn't going to be given a new contract? Probably back then, maybe, and maybe they was just seeing it out, being professional, so to speak. But the January window completely killed us, mate. Do you know what I'm saying? But is ninth place finish a good finish for West Ham, though, Charlie, or is it a finish that sort of papers over where we should have been, really?
I think it's fine, but I
Yeah.
can't go any further than that. I think it's just fine. Like, given the amount of money we spend, we should be about ninth anyway. Um, it's one of those ones where football's all about what ifs, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, what if we like, for example, last night, obviously Atalanta win the Europa League. Everyone's talking about Gianluca Scamacca. There was conversations in the Hammers chat page on group chat about like, would how far would we have got if we had kept Scamacca and all these other things. It's football is full of what ifs, and it's very easy to sort of look at those, all of them, and go, well, if we did that, if we did that, if we did that, if we did that. And it's always quite difficult not to look at it more objectively, slightly standing away from that. I think,
Mm.
like I say, January is the big one that could have genuinely hugely changed things. But ultimately, ninth, it's not exactly a bad result. I think it would have been nicer for us, and I think we would be a lot less down on the season potentially if the really strong results we'd had in the beginning and half of the year were spread out. If it wasn't
Yeah.
such an incredible start and then a really bad finish. But ultimately, it's not that bad. We did well in Europe. We did well in the Premier League ish. I'm not necessarily against that. I'm not necessarily against that. It's not exciting. It's not filling me with joy. I'm not sat here, eulogizing what an incredible season it's been. But I'm just like,
Mm.
yeah, that's a sort of middle of the road season for West Ham.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I'm gonna get to this comment here. Good photo of J Lo. Oh, that J Lo, J Lo and Tim together. Yeah, I mean, well, I told you, people. I'm gonna say it. Yeah, I did not say Alonso. I did not say Slot. I did not say Almarin. I said Lopetegui. And baby, it's all good with me today. I'm over the moon. Do you know what I'm saying? Thank you very much. First thing Sullivan's done good for me for ages. I will say that. Right, we'll move on to this. It's best and worst moments this season, Charlie. We've had some good moments. We've had some fucking shit moments. What are you saying?
They might both be Arsenal. Beating Arsenal and then losing to Arsenal are probably two of them, if we're being honest about it. I mean, you look at the worst one is obvious when you talk about that Arsenal game, about how bad it was. I don't really need to explain to people how horrendous that match was and how just
Mm,
deflating it felt and how utterly dreadful it was. And then the other one, the win, just that, maybe the last Moyes ball performance, the last pure
yeah,
Moyes ball performance of just going, you're not going to score. We've told you you're not going to score. You can do
yeah,
whatever you want. It's not going in, my friends. And I think that was just like, there are very few things I like in football as much as a shithouse win. I can't
mm,
lie about it. Like, don't get me wrong. I love going into a match and feeling like, oh, we fully deserved that. We played them off the park. Well, like, I love that. Don't get me wrong. But in those moments where where you're up against a team who are just who could completely outclass you, and as we saw, did end up completely outclassing us in some matches, and just going, nope, not
yeah,
today, my friends. We have Angelo Ogbonna rolling back the years with his big shiny dome, saying, nah, nah. And then just smashing it out of the park. I mean, that's kind of, I love that. And then you have individual moments like Kudus's goal against, what's the amazing one,
Freiburg.
Freiburg?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Freiburg.
stuff like that as well. Like, well, I mean, like Kudus, I've said some things about him this year, and he runs hot and cold for me. But like when he's hot, my god, that guy is just unreal.
Mm. I agree, but I think there is also other games where they don't really get a lot of mention. Like I done a sort of game by game review the other day, Charlie, on here, and I turned around and I basically said that the Everton home game was by far one of the worst games of football I've probably ever watched. Do you know what I mean? Watched us play Everton, absolute atrocious. It was 0-0 right up until about the 19th minute. They score and then we don't do nothing after. Literally nothing of any note after. Um, Obviously Villa away, Liverpool away in the cup, Fulham, Palace, Chelsea. It's even Manchester United to avoid 3-0 hammering up there. Like there's been so many hammerings this year where, and also I think the Newcastle game was also a bad moment. Like is a really really bad moment, being 3-1 up and then losing the game 4-3 in a space of 20 minutes. Do you know what
Great
I'm
shout.
saying?
Yeah,
Like
great shout.
I don't know about you. Um, Obviously, good moments. I think Brighton at the start of the season was an excellent result. I don't know about
Yeah.
you.
Do you know what? I missed that game, and I'm still angry about it because that's like I've missed very very few games this year. I've done watch-alongs for almost every single game, and that one just happened to be I'd booked months ahead in advance. The wrestling
Mm.
comes to the UK, AEW at Wembley. Went to Rev Pro the night before, and the night before I'm in Stratford. I'm in the copper box watching wrestling, and I leave right. I leave, and as I'm leaving, a subscriber of Hammers Chat. I'm walking out and I'm by
Yeah.
myself at this show. I just went to the show by myself, I have my headphones on, I'm getting my jacket on as I'm walking out, and someone goes, Charlie. And I turn around and I'm like, and he introduces himself as a subscriber of Hammers Chat and watcher of the watch alongs. And I'm like, oh my god, nice to meet you. I'm shaking his hand, never met before. And he goes, we beat Brighton 3-1. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I couldn't get like a signal in the venue, so I had no idea what the score was. And so this idea that we had smashed them, and it still pisses me off, James. I sit here and do watch-alongs, right? And I have to watch us get absolutely smashed by this team, by that team, by that team. Then we rock up and get a surprise result against Brighton. I'm not even there. How
I know, mate.
Fuming,
Joe
fuming.
what? Joe what? It was a really, really good game, that one. Like, I remember it clear as day. We hit the crossbar twice. We like there were so many chances that we had. We had, I think we had a 1-on-1 or two 1-on-1s at one stage. Yeah, we scored three. We could have scored six. I understand that Ariola kept us in the game, but that's what he's paid to do. He's paid to keep us in the bloody game. So that's what he did. So yeah, listen, that was good times. Now we move on to this man who has gone.
Yes.
Charlie, two questions that I asked everyone who's come on sort of this week. First question is, how will you look back on his journey at West Ham? And the second question, which will be the first one, is how will you judge him the season just gone?
It's interesting timing that we have to have this conversation, isn't
I know.
it? I think how you judge him this season is, again, it's a very sort of, for me, it's a very middle of the road season. I think we've obviously conceded way more than we would want to. Realistically, we've had the downfall of Kurt Zuma, a lot of injuries at centre back. Again, has just decided to go missing, and it's one of those things where, like, it's not helped, but obviously you can't really concede that many goals. It has been a season in the Premier League where there's just been a ridiculous amount of goals. I think it's the most amount of goals potentially in a Premier League season ever. I said very early on in the season, it felt like a weird season where anyone could get smashed at any one moment. I think you
Yeah,
saw teams like, I think Chelsea get absolutely hammered one week and then the next week hammer someone else. Like,
yeah,
it's just one of those weird seasons, but ultimately you can't really concede as many goals and come away with it smelling of roses. So when you look at him specifically this year, although I think it is quite middle of the road, I think that aspect is something that has to be considered. I think the other side of it is it being the right time for him to leave.
mm,
Like, you know me, like, I'm not a big Moyes out person by any stretch of the imagination. I'm probably more on the other side. And I think if you'd said to me, oh, David Moyes would stay, I wouldn't necessarily have been against it. But what I would have wanted to see is something that we couldn't have done. If Moyes was to stay, I wanted to have seen us, we would, or in my opinion, we would have had to have gone fully Moyes ball.
mm,
None of this stuff that we saw last season where we tried to sort of expand our horizons and play a bit of possession, get Skamaka, get Emerson changed to a back three, let's push ourselves further up the pitch. Not what we've seen this season at times, which is this weird sort of in-between thing of not really knowing quite what we're doing because we have the players who are good enough to do something different, but
yeah,
we also have some very limited factors. I would have wanted to see us, if Moyes was staying, to go pure Moyes ball basics, defending back against the wall, big counter-attacking vibes. And the thing is, as a club at West Ham right now, I don't think we can do that. I don't think it's the right time for us to do that. I don't think we have the players to do that. And I don't think we have a fan base willing to do that. When he first came back, and it was those first couple of seasons, and it's about saving us and stabilizing us and all that, I think you have a fan base who are willing to back that. But I think as time goes on and we are wanting that evolution, you have to
mm,
go with it. And Moyes has shown, unfortunately, over the last couple of seasons that whether through his fault, whether through the structure of the club's fault, whatever it is, he wasn't able ever to implement that evolution that we all want and need. And I think
mm,
at that point, you have to go, thank you and goodbye. As much as I was never a Moyes out person, and I'm still not a Moyes out person, I'm still not sat here saying, like Scotty Venn, shout out to big man in chats, like saying, calling him the dinosaur and stuff like that. I would never say stuff like that. But
mm.
realistically, it was the right time for him to go, and it's the right time for us to move on in a different direction. And for me, I look back on him and say, you've done a wonderful, incredible job at West Ham, arguably the best manager I can remember properly. Like, don't get me wrong, I remember bits about, say, Harry Redknapp, for example. I was around and
Yeah,
watching the games in those days, but I don't remember. I didn't watch every single game. I wasn't like intricately involved. I was too young for that point. It's the best manager I've seen under West Ham. He's got European trophies, which is something I will literally never ever. I don't care what anyone says. I will never discount winning that
yeah,
trophy. It was maybe, it's probably the biggest moment in my life supporting West Ham. And let's be real, we support West Ham. They don't come along often enough. It might be the biggest moment I ever get supporting West Ham. I don't want it
true.
to be. I would want us to move forward and try and get into Europe more and blah, 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 blah. But realistically, it could be the biggest moment I ever see as a West Ham fan. But realistically, I think unfortunately for him, it's the right time to go and the right time to move on. But I think of him as nothing but fond memories, really. And that night winning and all that other stuff.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. Like, I think me and you are on the same wavelength on this regard. I mean, what he done at West Ham, he made West Ham consistent. Yeah, I know the playing style was shit. Don't get me wrong. I agree, but I do think West Ham being sixth, seventh, 14th, ninth is a bit of a standard where he's trying to get to West Ham too. Obviously now, right? He's gone. Do you reckon? How do you see West Ham being from now? Like, obviously, we're going to be moving on to sort of Lopetegui era, and he's here now, officially today. Like, how do you see that going now with him?
In, it's going to be interesting. I think. I think first season is going to be difficult. And by difficult, I don't mean relegation or anything like that, but I just mean it's going to be one of those ones where he's not quite working with everything he wants. We've got a lot of change in the squad to make happen. We've got a lot of change in the background to make happen. Like, we're talking about implementing a whole new recruitment system with a new recruitment team. There's a lot of those sort of things beating around in the background. It's going to be difficult, but I think in the longer term, and by longer term I mean the next 3 years, because that's what long term is for football management. Unfortunately, at this stage in life, I think it's going to be all right. I think it'll be fine. We've got someone who has proved that he can do it at a very, very high level, at a level that we want to be at, which is consistently fighting for European football, consistently fighting for Europa Leagues and getting into Champions Leagues and stuff with Sevilla. He's proven he can do that. He got hired by Real Madrid not by chance. It's because he genuinely had done a good job up to that point to warrant a look at least. He is a good manager. It's not the perfect thing that everyone. Here's the thing: is it the perfect manager I think we'd all want? No, but I also don't think that guy exists. I think you can please some of the people all of the time. You can please all of the people some of the time. And I think with this, what we've got is he'll please all of the people some of the time. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the greatest thing forward. But if we can use this as the opportunity to build upon something, like I spoke about this on me and Jack Elderton do a show called Hamalytics on Patreon, on patreon.com/hammerchat. We spoke about it literally last night. Like, the idea of, like, if you can use this as a moment to build the club, then that's kind of what I'm looking for out of Lopetegui. I'm not sitting here super excited for him. I'm not
But,
sitting here
but
buzzing.
is he
But
under
if we can
pressure,
get,
though, to a point, though, Charlie? Because,
I,
like,
not as much. I don't think any much more. I don't think any more than anyone else would be.
but what it is with the sort of standard that obviously Moyes has left West
Yeah,
Ham, and I understand the playing side of things because he's shit and he's left us in a bit of a mess there. I can understand that argument, but West Ham should be competing for top 10. Like, literally, like, a top 10
yeah,
finish should be a reasonable and fair assessment of West Ham United Football Club. Like, I don't
yeah.
see why it would be that much of a struggle to try and get top 10. And I think people are lowering their expectations because I don't know why they're lowering their expectations. Is it because the playing style? Now, obviously, Steiden, he's like literally got like a private jet to Brazil. He's probably got like a villa out there. He's bringing a lot of Brazilians back with him, right?
It's
You
good. It's
know,
nice. It's nice. It's a nice life if you can get it. It's a
it
nice
is,
life if you can
yeah.
get
Like
it.
Coco Cabana Beach, lovely place, mate. I've been there before. Very, very nice, right? But what I'm saying is, like, I do feel that the 2 year deal is a bit, you know, it's like a year rebuild, and then basically what it's saying is you've got 1 year to get into Europe for West Ham, which is a bit, I don't know about you, Charlie, but I think that's not a long term vision, is it?
The thing is, it's not a long term vision, but you can't have a long term vision with a single manager.
Mm.
That's the thing. I think in football now you can't think about it in terms of single managers. I think you have to look about it in terms of long term vision from a club standpoint. That being either Tim Stuyton, Sullivan,
Mm.
like all of the Tim Stuyton, Sullivan, Noble, like that group together. That has to be the, like, hopefully as little David Sullivan as humanly possible in this discussion. Don't get me wrong, but I
Yeah.
think that has to be where the long term vision comes into place. I think when it comes to single managers, managerial like periods at clubs don't last that long, and I think you can't look at long term. Like 3 years is not really a long term period anyway. Like, I was just looking at the article on the club website to see if they said, because it was, the rumor was 2 years with plus an extra year, right?
Extra year
Possible.
if he gets into Europe, he gets an extra year,
And
basically.
I think that's probably right. I think when you're looking at a period of changing everything, and it is, like, Moyes has
Mm.
been here a hell of a long time, and the players, we have this weird mishmash squad where We have the
Yeah.
core group that he has used most that fit his style, which is not Lopetegui's style whatsoever. And then you have a mishmash of other people who sort of just exist that we don't really know what they're doing at the club. I think when you look at that, you're looking at it being you're not writing off the first season, but you're
Yeah.
saying the first season our goals are not necessarily based on performances in terms of league position or this, that, and the other. You're looking at it in terms of, right, is the squad in the right place? Is the club in the right place to move forward? And look, outside of that, if he has a season where we finish 15th, then he's probably going to go. Let's be real about it. Like it's not like you could just write off
Is
everything
that
completely. But
so?
I think it's the goal after, you know.
Right. You say what is acceptable and then what is not acceptable in that regard, then? Because if he finishes mid-table, is that
Yeah,
really acceptable? Like, obviously, a top 10 finish with West Ham, Bowen, Kudus, Alvarez, Emerson, Ward-Prowse, some of these other players that we've got in our side. We ain't full of mugs. We've got some good players in our team. If we add 6 top quality players to the ranks and sort of really boost it up, no Europe. If he gets mid-table, I don't think that's going to wash very well, mate. If I'm being honest, if West Ham finish 14th, will people be happy? And the problem is, the argument is that the style of play. That was the argument with Moyes. Now, if you're finishing
sure.
14th in the league, yeah, you can't finish 14th in the league and play good football. You know what I'm saying? It don't come in hand in hand, like because it
Here's
doesn't.
I think here's the thing. I think you're not wrong, but I think the question isn't necessarily will it wash with the fans, but will it wash with the leadership structure at the club? And I think
Mm,
if you finished, say, 12th, I think that does. And I think, like I say, you can please some of the people all of the time. You can please all of the people
yeah.
some of the time, and it will definitely be the latter. Like, I don't think the thing is, I don't think you can make everyone happy because we're such a fractured fan base right now that realistically, I don't think there's a scenario unless he goes and wins the Europa League like in 2 seasons' time, but that still
Mm,
requires you to get into the Europa League. So maybe we get top four like Villa did this year, or whatever, however else the permutation bees. Even
mm,
then, we won a European trophy, and some people were still saying David Moyes should leave. Like I don't think it's a scenario where you can please everyone, and I don't think that
yeah.
has to be the case. I think if you finished, say, 12th, I think that would satiate the leadership structure at the club as long as there's the other stuff is sort of in place. And I think that's the big thing. Again, the long term vision has to be moving from where we're at currently under David Moyes, with
Mm.
the huge amount of players like that are going to be leaving, big players like Paquetá probably leaving as well, to in 3 to 5 years' time, us being the club where we want to be. And that has to be a longer process. It can't just sort of happen
I
overnight, you
get
know?
that. I get that. I get what you're saying. But what happens next season if we're in a scenario where, just say for instance, he finishes 12th, yeah,
Yeah.
but West Ham are playing all right. The following season, we start off, we get to the Christmas time, and we're in the same situation. Is there going to be the same situation that we had with our previous manager, with the current manager right now in Lopetegui, where people are going to look at it and say, "Well, just get rid of him, just sack
Yeah,
him,"
of
like
course.
because I can see that scenario coming.
I
Like,
can as well.
do you know what I'm
I can
saying?
as
I can
well.
see it. I can like because what it is, the third year, he only gets a third year if he gets into Europe. Now, if he's 10th or 11th, and we're trying to get there, but we've got no chance of really getting there, then people are going to be asking to sack this man and go for another manager. And it's
Sure.
like one thing with West Ham, I will say over the last couple of years is we've been sort of like a bit more structured, like as in like it's been a bit more stable. Like it's been, don't get me wrong, there's been like moments where we've done some fucking stupid things, but as a whole, like we have, it's true, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
like I do moments, especially at our club, but um, is that a bit of a worry for you though, Charlie? With this sort of like obviously where is 2 years? That's the only thing. Like, do you know what I'm saying? If it was more, if it's a 3 year deal and you go a year transition and he's got 2 years to sort of really get West Ham going,
Yeah.
I don't think like it would wash like to a point.
I think it's a mixed thing, right? Because I think the thing is it might not wash, but the truth is that we've just seen it wash with Moyes. Now Moyes
Mm,
obviously won, and I mean wash with the board, with the
yeah,
people, the leadership structure of the club. Now obviously
yeah,
Moyes had a European trophy in there, which helps that. Like it's a lot easier to sort of go, well, we're going to give him time because he's won us a trophy, so he deserves time to turn it
Yeah.
round or to build, or however you want to word it, right? And Lopetegui won't have that. But what he will have is a structure around him that makes those decisions a lot easier. Now, obviously, when you talk about Tim Steidten, for example, being more in charge of recruitment, let's say, he might not necessarily be in charge of managerial appointments, but would at least be involved in those conversations. A lot of people talk about Xabi coming in and how, oh my God, look, they got Xabi in, incredible. Leverkusen were third the season before Xabi came in, right, with their previous manager. They were third. Unbelievable result for them. Brilliant. Next start of the season, 8 games in, they're in 16th, they're doing really badly. The leadership structure at Bayer Leverkusen go, despite how well you finished last season, we're going to try something new. We don't think that's happening. Now, we will look at this in hindsight and sort of go, well, look, like, you can make these sort of decisions and move forward. But realistically, we don't know how they're fully judging that. It might just be by league position, but it might be by other key, like, indicators, like where are we talking about where their squad is at, what they were sort of looking long term. Maybe that guy they were thinking the end of the year we need to replace him anyway, so let's get another guy in now, blah 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 blah. And
Maybe
Tim
the
Steidten
manager was there for the taking. That's another thing.
exactly, yeah, exactly. That's a huge point. That's a huge
Yeah.
point. And I think Tim Steidten was involved in those conversations, right? He wasn't, despite what a lot of people say, he wasn't the guy at Bayer Leverkusen. There were a lot of people, but the point is that we're now building that structure around him now, currently at West Ham. So we're not just
Yeah.
going to get there instantaneous. You can't bring one guy, plop him in, and then it goes. But look at this, it's beautiful. You have to build a structure, and that's what we're doing. But my point is, we've seen with Tim specifically being involved in those conversations a willingness to do those kind of things if it makes sense. And clearly with Bayer Leverkusen, it made sense and it worked out for them. I think with Lopetegui, if it is a situation where, like we say, we finish 12th, playing all right, next season starts on a wobble, fans will undoubtedly be unhappy. Because realistically, in football, you're only 5 bad results really away from being up against it with fans anyway. It's just the way it goes, right? If you lose badly 5 times in a row, fans are going to get antsy. Just because that's the way we are. We support the club, we support it. It's a passionate thing for us. It's just the way it goes, right? And that's not just a West Ham thing, that's an everyone thing, right? But behind the scenes, when you look at that leadership structure, they will have ideas of what they want to happen. And if for them, the long term is right, for the end of the season, we'll stick with Lopetegui because we think he's going to be able to, it will allow us to do specific things and move forward in certain ways and he will get certain things. Then he'll probably stay because we saw that happen with Moyes, we saw that happen with other people, and we also have a much smarter, hopefully, system in place by that point. If they look at it and they go, actually, this is going Pete Tong in a very bad way, and we don't believe there's the structure around him or whatever to make this work. And like you say, there is someone out there who is available, who we would like, who we think is the right guy to take us forward, then they could also go for that. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think we need to start thinking about West Ham in terms of structure over long term. And that doesn't include just Lopetegui. That includes Lopetegui, the next guy after that, potentially even the next guy after that, because that's the way football is. And I think that's the way we need to start thinking about it, because then we can start to go, what are the decisions that should be made, as opposed to thinking, in the moment kind of thing.
I understand that. I really do. And I was listening to your word for word on that. But how much of a job does Tim Steidten have this year? Because now he's going to be firmly in the frame there. But I think
Yeah.
people like looked at Moyes quite a lot. Now Moyes is out the equation. Lopetegui's here.
Right.
It's time for Tim Steidten to step up and do his thing.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about next year, right? I am a little bit nervous because when you're bringing in a load of players, do we know that these players are going to hit the ground running straight away? And
Yeah.
do we have time for them to bed in? I don't personally think, Joe, we're going to need to have time for these geezers. We need these geezers to hit the ground running now. Like, how do you think Steiden's going to do now?
It's difficult to say. I have trust that it will happen. I'm not like sat here thinking. I'm not as big a fan of his as a lot of other people are. I think he's had some good things at West Ham. I think he's had some bad things at West Ham. I think he's done some mistakes. I think he's done some good things, but that's the same as anyone else. So I'm not sitting here thinking he is the saviour and be all and end all. What I will say is he's such a significant upgrade from what we have in terms of David Sullivan being the director of football and being in charge of these operations, having someone like Steidten who, actually knows what they're doing is
Mm.
such a significant upgrade that I'm looking at it in terms of what are the small wins and building off that, because this is a big high profile job for him as well, and it's not something he can afford to get wrong. And realistically, again, for him, when I look at Steiden, I see that long term guy. That's the long term vision I'm seeing. I'm not looking at Lopetegui as the long term vision. I'm looking at Lopetegui as the guy who makes sense now that we can build off of. Steiden is the one that you build around. That's the sort of guy who's going to implement the structure and the vision of the club going forward. And he will live and die by a lot of those decisions, because I don't necessarily think David Sullivan is. I don't know, but the fact that we've had a couple of people in the past who have been very quick to get fired after certain things
Yeah.
shows that probably David Sullivan is not a guy who's going to be accepting of that. So we'll have to see. I think the signs so far this summer I am very happy with. But that's with the caveat that it's very, very early, and like the window's not even. I mean, we're weeks away from the window opening yet. So,
Yeah.
but the signs that we've got going forward right now, I am very, very happy with, because I believe that's the right way to build us going forward to allow us to achieve our goals this season that we need, plus going forward as a club. But again, we are very early in the window, so it's well, we're not even in the window yet, so it's a bit difficult to judge it
Yeah.
fully.
One thing I will say, it is a big summer for him though, like
It
i.e.
is, yeah, I agree.
with recruitment. Um, the
Huge,
round this,
huge summer for the club.
I think it's the biggest window in the Premier League era, mate. If you want me to be honest, like I look at this
It's one
window
of
and
them.
I think it's right up there. I think because what it is, it goes one or two ways for me. If he signs, because he's going to sign at least six players, at least at the bare minimum, right? Signs six players. They've all got to hit the ground running. If they all don't hit the ground running, and some of them don't adapt to Premier League football, then we've got a bit of a problem, because then we've got five or six players who we need time with, and we don't need to give them time. We need them to come in and start and be playing games. Do you know what I mean? That's one thing with West Ham, is that um, with other clubs you can bed these players in over a period of time. With West Ham, we need these players to hit the ground running, like Alvarez, like Kudus. Do you know what I'm saying? I do think it's a big window. I'm nervous about it, but I feel like I trust the geezer to do the right thing, because he
Mm.
hasn't done anything wrong in that regard so far. But I think it's just the old West Ham in me, though, Charlie. If I'm being honest, because like I remember 2016 when we moved from Upton Park to Stratford. I know
Mhm.
like that recruitment was absolutely atrocious. Like you're always going to have your
I
doubts,
think
aren't
it's
you?
hard. I think that I'll be honest with you. I think that window's hard done by, but at the same time, that was a huge opportunity and we missed it.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
huge opportunity and we missed it. But that's really to getting stuff from 2016. That was depressingly now, James, 8 years ago. Don't need to remember it's that long ago.
I
Don't
know.
need to remember it's that long ago.
Yeah, I know, mate. I know. Let's get this question in. Hi, James, Charlie. Surely J Lo. I love how people call him J Lo now, because they don't want to pronounce his name. We've been judged on kind of decisions that are problematic with David Moyes. Can you respond in match to different teams, or is he one sided for all? If is adaptable, um, I agree to a point. He has to sort of do in game management. I think that's one thing we lacked last year with Moyes. I don't know about you,
Yeah,
Charlie, but there was times where
100%.
where we was in games. I can see it, you can see it through doing a watch along. Every other Joe Bloggs can see it, but Moyes is sitting 35 yards away and he can't see it. So I do think that's going to be interesting. Um, I'm going to ask you something now, Charlie. Where do you think West Ham will finish next season? But just for argument's sake, we go out, we sign six good players. Yeah, Steiner goes out, he gets a striker, he gets a right back, a couple of centre halves, midfielder. Um, where do you think West Ham will finish under Lopetegui?
I think we'll sign more than six, by the way.
Uh,
I don't,
Six is
I
the
don't,
bare minimum for me. Yeah, I
yeah, I
agree.
don't think it's going to be like six high profile big name signings and a lot of money spent on them, but I do think we sign more than six.
Yeah,
Um,
come on, Charlie,
I don't
get off that
know.
fence.
It could be anywhere from, it could be anywhere from 12th to 8th in my mind. I'm just trying to decide exactly where. I want to give you an exact number. I don't want to give you sort of a broad range. and I don't
I
want to just
think,
sit in the middle either.
yeah, I think what it is, right, for me, and I use me as an example. Um, I think the replacement of Paqueta has to be bang on because if Paqueta's going, yeah,
Agreed.
he has to go out, and I think you have to get two top players for that. Yeah, I don't think you go out and get one. I think you have to go out and boost the squad up. So go and get two players who can come in and do like different roles, either as a
Yeah,
10, as a left winger, right winger, centre forward, whatever. I think we definitely need a centre forward at this club, and I swear to God, if I don't see a centre forward come through the door at West Ham this summer, then I'm
yeah.
literally like, I might just bang me up against that wall there. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm very
Um,
confident we will. To be fair, I'm very
I,
confident. Like
yeah,
I've not been confident the other windows. I'm unbelievably confident this window we're going to get a
I think
striker.
yeah, I think that has to be a must. Yeah, I think when you're relying on um, Antonio at 34, and then you've got Danny Ings
Yeah,
on the bench, it just doesn't cut it, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Antonio, yeah, keep him 100%. Second choice striker, get him off the bench for 20 minutes, half hour in games.
yeah,
I'm all down for that. But I think Ivan Tony or a Solanke or someone of that ilk or class, get them to the LS. Like I think West Ham need to go out. I think for me, I've always said this, and Scotty Venn, if he's in the chat or not, um, I've always said Ivan Tony for years. I said get him. I think imagine having Ivan Tony, Bowen, and Kudus. Like that'd be quite
yeah.
a
I would love
feisty
it.
front
I
three.
don't think it will happen, but I would love it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
yeah. So
possible.
like, I think the midfield needs to be looked at also. I think when you look at Alvarez, yeah, very good,
Yeah.
but you take him out, we've got no defensive midfielder in there as cover at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the big thing, right? Is stylistically as well. Like, I think if you were sticking with Moyes, it would be a case of being able to sort of build on the principles that we have. So you look at
Yeah,
someone like, for example, Thomas Suchek, and you go, fits Moyes' style. We're all good with that, right? Well, not we're all good.
yeah.
A lot of the fans hate Thomas Suchek,
Some.
which I never understand, but we that's another different show for a different day. But like we would understand that sort of movement. Whereas now with Lopetegui, he obviously does not fit Lopetegui's style, so that takes
Yeah.
yet another player out. Now I think James Ward-Prowse fits Lopetegui a lot more, but there are questions to be raised about that midfield. You do have to go out and sign someone. And I think if you're playing a 4-3-3, which I would suspect you could see a 4-2-3-1, I guess, but so 4-3-3 is what I would expect. Then you're looking at a midfield of it would be in my head Alvarez, Paquetá plus another. And if
Mm.
Paquetá goes, then you're looking at a really different situation there. You might have James Ward-Prowse as one of them, but you would need to replace that guy because we don't really have another one. And as much as I've heard people mention Flynn Downs, Freddie Potts, no, just no.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, Freddie Potts long term potentially not
Yeah.
ready to start every single game right now. Flynn Downs, we'll see. I don't know on that one. I don't know if Lopetegui comes in and likes him. That's good enough for me. We move forward with it. But again, I don't see him exactly as someone who's going to start every week for West Ham right now. Which means, regardless, you got to go and get someone. You just have to go
Mm.
and get someone for that role. And it's
What
going to
do
be interesting
you
what we look for, to be honest.
what do you make of the Cresswell situation? Because one thing I will say, Charlie, yeah, I think you heard the space I done last night. It's a really good space last night. It's probably one of the best ones I've done for a long
Yes.
time. Yeah, and we was all talking about Cresswell on there. Yeah. Now, the one thing that I can't understand is that people say about they want to see the youth, and then they want to give a year's contract to a geezer who didn't want to be here last year. Like, I don't get what people want. Like, do you want to see the youth, or do you want to keep the old guard here? You know what I'm saying?
Signing Cresswell onto here's the argument I would make. Signing Cresswell, and this is a bit insane, so go with me for a second.
Yeah.
Signing Cresswell to a 1 year contract, I think makes the likelihood of, say, someone like Scarles getting game time higher than someone else. Because if so, right now at this point in time, we have Emerson
Mm.
this next season, right? If
Yeah.
until Cresswell signs a new contract, we have Emerson next season. That would mean we would need to go and sign someone else because putting
Mm.
in Ollie Scarles as your second choice left back feels crazy to me at this point. I think he's got what it takes, and I think again this is something I spoke about on Hammerlistics yesterday, but like I think actually Scarles is stylistically really interesting for Lopetegui. I think that's one of the youth players who could really get an opportunity because he sort of
Mm.
fits everything that Lopetegui would want, right? So I think he has a future under Lopetegui. But it's also very early in his career. He's not played really any senior football, and so putting him in a second choice is quite a scary thing to do.
He did play.
So
He played in that European game, and I thought he was excellent. Like,
I thought he was excellent as well. But 1 or 2 games at a senior level is not a senior career. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm sort of saying. I think
that.
if he
I get that
if he
argument.
had a loan to the championship and like had played an entire season at senior football, then I would
Yeah,
be like, yeah, let's get this sorted. Let's get him in. But at this point, it's just a scary prospect. So having him as an option is nice. And by that logic, I think you would have to get someone to be the second choice. Whether that be the person who you think is long term better than Emerson or someone who is short term. And if we look at Ollie Scarles and go, we want him to be the first choice going forward at West Ham for a long time, then actually getting Cresswell in, who we know Lopetegui likes because he tried to sign him previously, we know he suits the system, and realistically will only be here for a year max, means that you can pick and choose the games where you want to play Scarles, can give
you
him the
know
game
full
time,
well they're going to
can
give him a
push.
2-year deal.
Well, even if they give him a 2-year deal, that's fine. He could just exist. It's not that deep. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he might even
yeah,
go at the end of that second year, first year. But you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
realistically, it puts us in a scenario where we can pick and choose the right games for Scarles to play, and also his pathway is set because Cresswell is running on limited time. That's not a
I
guy
agree
who
with
we
you.
go and sign. We go and sign someone from Europe who's 24 and is exciting. Well, he's going to be there the entire time, and he's just going to be stood directly in front of Scarles, stopping him from getting game time. And with Emerson, I'm I'm less convinced by other people than I am on Emerson. But here's the thing I would say about Emerson is I would be interested to see he's going forward. Seems like he fits perfectly for Lopetegui.
Agree.
Defensively, Emerson is a sus guy. He moves around in weird ways.
But
He's
ain't
often caught out of
but
position.
but ain't all of our defenders like that though. Like I look at like Sufal, for instance. Yeah, he's not one who can really is an okay defender, but he's not like a great. Like we haven't got
I
great
agree. I
defenders
agree.
at the club. Do you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
here's the
Like,
thing. I think Sufal is a good defender. I would say he's
mm,
better than Emerson by a significant stretch as in from the defending side of it. But the
yeah,
problem is with Sufal is like for again from Lopetegui's view, he's not exactly going to get on the ball and start playing it around. You know,
I
that's not
know I know
Sufal's
what you're
game.
saying. I know what you're saying, but then we do need people who are ball carriers.
But this
Like
is
we
kind
need.
of But in this argument about how bad our defense is right now, our defense is a
Mm,
huge problem. And it doesn't matter
mm,
what manager you got in next season, whether it's Lopetegui, whether Moyes stayed, or whether it was someone completely different, Amarin, whoever.
yeah,
Pick your poison, right? It really doesn't make a difference. Our defense is an absolute shambles and needs a hell of a lot of work. You've got first choice. You have Emerson, who can't defend. You've got Aged, who apparently can't stay fit or just doesn't want to be here or whatever's going on. Or
he's
on the other
gone
side,
missing, mate. I
yeah,
swear to
or on the
God.
other side, if you want to go first choice, you could say Ogbonna, who is
Yeah,
old as all hell and is done and is literally leaving, but that's fine. You've got Zuma, who has broken this year. I mean, he was always a broke guy, but my
yeah,
God, this season, you cannot. Zuma cannot be first choice centre back next season. It just can't happen. You've got
I agree with
Mavropanos,
that.
who is the one shining light because he's sort of looks like he's working out. He's got some big time mistakes in him, but actually, as someone who fits the system, who's positive in the way he's played, I'm happy with Mavropanos existing. And then at right
Yeah,
back, you've got Sufal, who can't pass the ball around, who panics under pressure, who just punts it long. I like him. I think he's good at crossing. I think he's good at defending. But that bit in between does not exist for Mavropanos. And then you've got Ben Johnson, who is also probably going. I want to keep Ben Johnson, but he's also probably going. So you do need major surgery in that area. I think
mm,
keeping Cresswell, although Skits is 100% correct, he can't run. I agree with you. But if Lopetegui likes him and he wanted to sign him previously and he couldn't exactly run back then, he'll just get forward into the positions and hit those crossing, hit the deep crosses, for example. Then you go
I,
inside, for example, the guy you
yeah,
speaking about the space yesterday, the one no one knew the name of,
yeah.
whose name is James.
Oh, Bruno.
Yep, first name.
Fabrizi of
It's something like that. And it's like Fabrizio Bruno or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, let
Sacha
alone
Baron
anything.
Cohen. I'm going to call him
The
Bruno.
very same. And this is where I think signing him makes sense because you
Right.
have a guy who comes in as an option. He's not coming in as like this is our first choice centre back, but he comes
Yeah,
in as a guy who's experienced, who suits the system. Lopetegui wanted him at Wolves as well, so clearly it's someone he likes, and it's someone who right now is having a really good period. He's coming in off a hot run. He's just been selected for Brazil recently. He's played for Brazil recently, so he's someone who is in form right now. You come in, and the last time we did that, Balbuena, did that end long term very well? No, but do you know what? That first year, Balbuena and Diop were absolutely unreal together. They were incredible. And
they were
for a
good. Yeah.
lower like price signing, someone who comes in, solidifies that defense a little bit with options, that allows us to then go and spend bigger in other areas. I'm kind of okay with it.
I understand that. Don't get me wrong. All right, their defense is knackered. Basically, it needs to be restructured.
Yeah,
Now, I've got one big question for you, Charlie. Yeah, and I keep hearing different sides of it.
sure.
Final one: who's the captain next year?
It's a great question because it ain't Kurt Zuma.
Exactly that,
It just
right?
ain't Kurt Zuma.
Because
Um,
when you look at this, and it is, trust me, trying to get your head around this one, there's not many people in there who you can trust to a point.
is it who is it? Okay, okay. Here's my questions to answer it. Right. First question: are we talking club captain or are we talking person who's on the pitch the person who's going to be on the pitch every single time?
I think you've got to go with as a club captain because if he's club captain, he leads by example, doesn't he? Like
That's fair.
he's representing the whole club, and basically he's basically the poster boy of West Ham United, isn't he? To a point, do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? To say like like he's the captain for every fan, man,
Yeah.
woman, child, all around the world. So I think it has to be that
Is
really.
it then? And then here's the second question: are you saying who I would pick, or are you saying who I think Lopetegui would pick?
Bit of both, really, mate. Because for me personally, I don't see many captains in there. Like someone mentioned Mavropanos yesterday, which ain't a bad shout. I can understand it. Yeah, Zuma can't be a captain. Every time West Ham lost last year, it was either Ward-Prowse coming out, Bowen coming out. It was always someone else coming out and
Yeah.
saying something. I think if you narrow it really right down, you've got Alvarez, Bowen, Ward-Prowse, and then that's about it, really. If I'm being
I think that
honest.
there are two other people you haven't mentioned who I think are outside shouts. I don't think they're. I think one is more likely than the other. My outside shout because I don't. And this is just purely my bias coming through. Thomas Suchek,
Mm.
what a man! Right? You want someone who leads by example. He's not going to play a lot, so we can't probably pick him, to be honest with you. But like, here's my thing with Suchek and why I don't understand why everyone hates Thomas Suchek. We always talk
Mm.
about, oh, if all you need to do is try hard and then West Ham fans will support you. My man will be bloody in the face and will still carry on doing stuff.
I
And then everyone
understand this.
complains. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying. But here's the thing. I think that would be an outside shot. Here's the one I think is more likely than other people think. Cresswell. I think Cresswell as a club captain guy, if he's staying, a manager who wanted to sign him previously has been here basically as long as I don't. Has anyone else been here longer than Aaron Cresswell? I don't think so. I think he's been here as long as anyone
Antonio?
else. Yeah, because he signed the season before Antonio, didn't he?
Mm.
So he's
Yeah.
been even longer than Antonio. Uh, speaks well, like you say, has come out and spoken quite a lot. I could see that as a club captain choice. Is it the one I would pick? No, I think it would probably be Bowen, I guess. But
I think it has to be Bayern, mate.
I don't really like the idea of Bowen captain at this point. But like maybe in 2 years, maybe. But at this
Mm.
point, I don't see it. I think Cresswell is maybe an outside shout if he
I
stays.
think I think Bowen has to be, mate. If I'm being honest, like people are against it because they go, "Oh, it's going to affect him." Like, he ain't going to affect that kid, mate. Like he scores goals, he speaks well, he comes out win or lose. He's here for 7 years. Like he knows what it means. He's got relations who are West Ham massive supporters. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think this
Yeah,
geezer can be trusted here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Cresswell, do I really want to give it to Cresswell when he's only going to be here for a year? No. Alvarez is a shout. The only problem is with Alvarez. I was all for it with Alvarez, but over the last sort of 5 months, he's been so inconsistent in regards of like getting booked in
sure.
silly challenges and things like that. And you need someone who's clear minded, clear head, and do you know what I mean? Is fully focused on the whole squad, not their individual performance. Do you get what I'm saying? So for me,
Yeah,
I think Bowen is a shout. Like he plays every game. He leads by example. And is it that deep really, Charlie, being a captain, or should it be like, because I want my player to lead by example. Like when we had you know who last season as captain, like I can say his name, but like when we had him, like he led by example to a point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he did, but I also think he was a bad captain. But that's just my own opinion. I think he did though, and I'm not necessarily like you say. I think there's two types of captains, right? You've got
Mm,
people who are like leaders on the pitch, and you have people who lead by example of their playing.
yeah,
And I think Bowen would probably be more the latter than the former. Although, like you say, there's a lot of things. Like I say, there's a lot. I think Bowen is the long term future captain at West Ham.
yeah,
I 100% agree with that. I think that is true. I think even if he doesn't get it this year, he'll get it in 2 seasons' time or whatever it'll be. Like it will happen because I don't think Bowen is going to leave. I think Bowen is here for the long term, and I think he is, like you say, lots of things around the club, lots of things around him about West Ham that help, and then adding into that the fact that he is one of our best players. I can just see it happening. He's also someone who puts in 100% effort. He's someone who
yeah.
tries his hardest even when he's playing up front, which isn't something that really works for him. He's still putting everything in. I think he is 100% the long term person. I think here's my argument for Cresswell. I'm seeing him as like Noble. Like
Mm,
Noble, like obviously was here a lot longer, was Mr. West Ham, was here since he was a kid, grew up in the area, all that sort of stuff, right? But Noble that last year wasn't exactly playing every single game or anything, but he was still captain of the club. And the amount of times I hear from former players about having that guy who's there to settle them in, to like when they join the club for the first time, he's there to make them feel welcome, settle them in, help them out, like someone who knows the club, like inside out, been here for so long that he knows every single person, all of that stuff. I don't
mm.
think we can necessarily discount that. The thing is, even if you did give it to Cresswell, he's not going to be playing loads of games, so the armband will probably go on Bowen's arm anyway, and he'd
I
probably end up being the captain
I
most
get,
games regardless. But
I
that
get
club,
that.
that club background side of it, I think is
Yeah,
something we shouldn't discount, especially this season where it is going to be a lot of transition. There is going to be a lot of new players coming in. Might even be
right.
players like you look at Sasha Baron Cohen, for example, coming in from Brazil. He's going to need to figure it out and learn how to settle on all of these things. He'll have Paquetá and Emerson who can help him out, but having that guy who's like the guy who's been a dude at West Ham for a long time could be very useful. You look at
Mm,
other people who are going to be coming in. I don't think we can discount that as much. Like I say, I think ultimately the armband will end up on Bowen's arm anyway most games because let's be real,
yeah.
Cresswell is not starting. But from a club perspective, you can see the argument.
Do you buy a captain for you or not?
No, because I think the other one would be James Ward-Prowse,
Yeah,
someone who's been a captain somewhere else a long time. I think we have captains in the squad. This is the thing I never really understood about Zuma, is we have captains in the squad. Suchek has been a captain for
yeah.
his country and for his previous club. James Ward-Prowse has been a captain for a long time at his club. Like we have people in the squad who were capable of doing it, or knew how to do it, but for some reason we gave it to Kurt Zuma, who I've never saw as a captain guy. He might have been. People feel free to correct me, but I never saw as a captain guy.
Mm,
It was a weird one for me. He was always an odd choice. So I don't think we necessarily need to go and buy one. I think we have people here who are capable of doing it, because you have people
yeah.
who we want to be captain like Bowen, who we think has who think has everything what it takes to make it happen, and has said publicly. I think he said this season, didn't he? He said he wants to be captain at some point at West Ham and stuff. And then we have people who have done it previously. So I don't think we need to go and buy one, to be honest.
Mm. It's going to be interesting. It really is, to see what happens in regards to the captaincy, because obviously that's a major thing at West Ham. And when you look at the greats who's captain at our club, I'm going to be honest. I think Zuma's been absolutely atrocious, mate. Like
Yeah,
he's he's not a like media man. I think I'm not going to lie. I've probably seen him once do a media interview after a game and we've been hammered. You know what I mean? Ward
it was
Prowse is always
also
in.
It was also an insane choice because of everything that happened in the summer before, where he was in the papers because of the cat stuff. And it's like you make the
Yeah,
guy who's supposed to be your captain, that guy, he can't talk to the media because they'll just asking him about the cat thing and it'll make you look horrendous. So why the hell would you make him captain? It makes no sense. I don't get it. I never
it's the
got
West,
it.
it's the West Ham way, mate. That's how we roll.
You're right though. He's probably up there with some of the worst captains we've had. Like
100%.
on the pitch might be a bit different. He might be loud, he might be talkative, he might be able to talk to referees and all that sort of stuff. But like, man, like I thought Rice was a come down from Mark Noble, but Zuma, oh my giddy gosh. He
Yeah,
can't
I know,
even
mate.
lead by example. Man can barely walk.
I know. Charlie, gonna wrap it up there, son. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, as
Thank
always.
you.
There's no point shouting you out because you're famous. Do you know what I mean?
Not
But you can
famous, but
you can find him on Hammer's chat. You know where he is. Do you know what I mean? He does his watch-alongs. I'm going to ask you to wrap it up finally, though. Your
sure.
best and worst watch-along this season. Come on, Charlie. You must have one. Well, you've suffered a lot this year. I know the Brighton one was you weren't there for that, but
I
what's
need
your
to look
best?
at I need to look at the results again to jog my memory. Because here's the thing with the watch alongs, right? It's a bit different because even when we get absolutely smashed, they can still be quite enjoyable. Because at
Yeah,
some point, once it gets to 2 to 3 nil, we just stop caring and start talking about food. And you know me, I'm
food.
happy to talk about
Yeah,
food whenever. So like those ones can be quite calm because you just sit there and you go, "Oh, it's 4-0. Anyway, what's everyone's favorite pizza?" Like, like it can be quite. So they're although bad, they're probably not. There were
would you say?
Liverpool in the cup losing that game was bad. That one was. I was fuming about that. I was still angry the next day. That was bad. That was bad, man. And
I'm
I
a,
don't keep my anger. Like I'm one of those people who, when I get angry, it's momentary. I lose it
yeah.
instantaneously. Don't care. Don't really have the energy for it. Right. Oh my god, I was angry the next day. Still, that one was bad.
You losing your rag, that is like a solar eclipse, mate. Honestly, you know what I'm saying?
I can't. I can't.
Would you say the Newcastle game was bad for you? 3-1 up, all the emotions of winning and then losing 4-3.
I don't remember that watch along. To be honest with you, I don't know why. It just doesn't stay in my memory at all.
Yeah. Well, I
This is
think
the thing about
everyone
the Liverpool one is I still remember how angry Bristol was bad as well. Oh my god, that one
someone
was bad
actually
as well.
I actually done a watch along for that. Yeah. No bit of a lie. I joined the TikTok community again. I was in there in COVID, sad times to be doing TikToks and shit. But then I rejoined it, and then I found a clip of me doing the fucking Bristol City watch along where I literally completely lost it. Like after 5 minutes, when Mavropanos decides to pass the ball straight to their player, and they go through and score, and I was like, for fuck's sake! But
I can't remember
yeah,
which one it was. I can't remember which game it was. It was probably Liverpool or Bristol. I can't remember which one it was.
mm,
I remember being so angry at half time. At half time and watch along, Gio comes on to talk at half time. That way I can go toilet, get my drink or whatever I need to do or whatever. And then me and Gio have a little bit of a brief conversation
yeah.
before he goes and watches the second half and I carry on the watch along. Gio comes on and I literally went, Gio, I can't be fucked. Enjoy the live chat, and then I just quit straight off and went toilet and just like was like I was so angry, and I got a message from a subscriber. Someone DM'd me on Twitter, went, "You all right, mate?" And I'm like, "No, okay, I'm so angry right now." But yeah, and then best, like I say, Arsenal's up there. Man U was pretty good. I'm trying to think, what were the other big results that were just a vibe?
Spurs, Chelsea at
Yeah,
home.
oh Chelsea, yeah. We've had some okay ones. We've had some all
Mm,
right ones. I'll be honest with you. There's been some decent. There's been some decent watch-alongs this year. It's been all right. I'll take
yeah,
that,
I
despite all the
must say.
horrendousness.
I'll rate it, mate. I'll rate it. Do you know what I'm saying? As I say, when I done that Bristol City one, I was sitting there. I thought, yeah, let's get this watch along done. First 6 minutes, bang, 1-0 down. I thought, yeah, just just my luck. I think I've done a few watch alongs this year. And we haven't scored a fucking goal, so I must be I must be cursed. So it is what it is. But listen, Charlie, always a pleasure to have you on, mate. As I always say, good work that you boys are doing over there for
Thank you.
like the YouTube community and everything. Shout out to Gio and yourself and all that. Top people. Go over and like follow them, subscribe to them. Like, you ain't got me to fucking tell you. You know what to do. And yeah, like this video, subscribe to this channel. I know it goes a long way, helps us out. And we'll see what happens. But Lopetegui's here. I'm here to collect, and collect I shall. Take care. Abosh.